So, Christel, first of all, I mean, the importance of skills has been made very clear. I think that's without debate. And next year, as we heard, is going to be the European Year of Skills. And the Commission's going to publish a transition pathway for the retail ecosystem. What are your hopes for this and what it's going to contain?
So first of all, on the Pact for Skills and the panel discussion has really highlighted the importance of investing in skills, and we very much look forward to rolling out the program together with Europa, but also to opening it up to whoever needs to be part of the discussion. I think the challenge, the scale of the challenge is such that we now, more than ever, need to mobilize ourselves, get the energy, and just get it done. And be assured that anything that will help will be asked for. So we very much look forward to working with the European Commission, DG Employment, DG Grow on that program. If we move on in relation to the transition pathway, skills development is an important element of the sector transformation, and as we have said and we've heard today, you can have a program, but if you don't have the people to help roll out the program, that you don't have an outcome. So skills is at the core of the sector transformation, and it is a very important element. But I'd like to come back to this idea of a transition pathway, because for us, the idea of this transition pathway is also to mobilize the energy to help the sector get its acts together and go through the much needed transformation. I mean, we've heard it, up to 600 billion euros need to be invested in our sector to help the sector go through the transformation that it needs to go through. And it's not just our sector deciding on this. I mean, the presentation this morning was very, very clear. We have a huge investment gap with our peers in America. We have our sector in Europe has a huge investment gap and competes with big tech companies. So we need to find the solutions. Our sector operates on the basis of very low margins, so we won't be able to do this alone. So really the transition pathway for us, in terms of if we can have some expectations, it is about creating a roadmap whereby we can have a program and where we mobilize the energy and make it, transform this as a collective effort to help the sector go through the transformation.
Okay, thanks. And Jakub, I'll come to you. So, here today, obviously, we have the retail and wholesale sector represented across its wide spectrum and variety. And we hear about the transformation process, of course, the transition pathway. How can the sector get involved in this? Because clearly it's a collaborative effort.
Yes. So good afternoon. It's a real pleasure to be here at, I would say, historic day. It's indeed, one of probably, given the magnitude, most important skills partnership that have been launched under the Pact for Skills. Well, the transition pathways can be seen really as I would say, closely interrelated or even kind of a twin process to the Pact for Skills. As part of the new industrial strategy that was, updated strategy that was adopted in spring 21, I mean, we already basically had a collective experience of first year of pandemic. We have seen how this acted on the one hand, obviously, as a calamity, but on the other hand, as a profound accelerator of the transition, of the twin transition. I mean, one has not to comment about the digital, but that basically saved us through the pandemic. But obviously, now exacerbated also by the Russian aggression against Ukraine. We also see that, the issue of energy transformation, energy transition, becoming more independent, becoming more reliant on renewable resources is of the essence for the survival of and successful transition of the economy. So transition pathway, I mean, basically is again a process which, in order to succeed, has to be very much kind of bottom-up driven. So there is a step which is going soon, which is the Commission is publishing staff working document which outlines, let's say, key issues, some possible actions. But again, the essence is the next step. So that basically starts the process of intensive dialogue and consultation with the stakeholders in the ecosystem. And that's why, we very much are very happy to see that your strong engagement from your side in all of this. And then transition pathway is composed of several, key building blocks. Again, this report on investment is, I think, very handy in a way. It comes as one of the indeed key elements of what I would imagine would be indeed the final transition pathway. Obviously the issue of technologies and the issue of skills, are some of the key components. So having this partnership, rolling out the actions, indeed is actually directly contributing to this. We speak about green transition. I've heard again a very interesting dimension, demographic transition, which I think indeed in such a labor-intensive sector as retail is of key importance. Again, rebalancing of relations between employers and employees. We see it and it has definitely a very good outcome. But there is one more dimension that I think is of the transition that is critical. That is basically related, to overall resilience. We've seen, the heavily integrated. I mean, benefiting from the single market sector as retail has seen what could happen, in terms of interrupted supply chains in the context of COVID. Obviously, we see how the war in Europe is basically also turning things upside down in many different ways, and how actually businesses can adapt to the situation. How also, including SMEs, how they can adapt to the, for example, high energy prices. I think these are the things that we are now putting a lot of emphasis on, and they would be, again, part of the transition pathway. We also had a discussion in the context of Industrial Forum about so-called addendum to the blueprint for the transition pathways that specifically addresses the impact of the war. And here we are talking indeed about the impact of the energy prices, but also, what happens if, again, we have some disruption of supply chains. And we need to be practical in all of this. So I give you an example. Recently, we have this network, EEN, Europe Enterprise Networks, the network supporting SMEs. Recently, there has been a very interesting effort to come up with a simple tool for SMEs, how to basically, assess the degree of resilience and identify some actions that could be of help. So these are the things that, again, I think would be very much relevant to this process and, again, to you. So we're very much looking forward to this engagement, basically, in coming months. And last but not least, I would say that, it will take some time. But again, I think that when we discuss, I think it would be indeed great if we manage to have the transition pathway completed, by mid next year, that would be very much.
If I can be frank, one word that's come up repetitively today throughout interventions, both from your Commission colleagues from Klima and other areas, together with also the comments we've heard from industry and sector and other stakeholders here in the room, is the word urgency. It keeps coming up, and it keeps coming up. And what you've said, I think, is very reassuring for people. But at the same time, I do have a particular question for you, Jakub, which is this. When we look at the challenge and scale of investment that's needed, when we look at the time scale for that to 2030, when we look at a sector like retail and wholesale with 80% SMEs, the one thing that comes to my mind, if I'm really honest with you, on behalf of the sector, is to say, when we hear about, okay, of course, all the initiatives at European level are very welcome, but I think one thing that the room's looking for, particularly from a DG Grow perspective as well, is there the recognition at Commission level that the sector can't do this on its own and does need support, because the sector's saying we're willing, we're moving forward, we're making our efforts on triple transformation, on sustainability, on digital, on skills. We're trying to put our good nature into action. We're trying to show you willingness. We have that willingness, but we can't achieve this scale of challenge in the short term, in the current double-digit inflation, spiking energy prices scenario. My question would be, can you reassure the sector that from a DG Grow and Commission perspective, you recognise the scale of the challenge and that the support will be there to match their effort?
Well, I mean, I think we have to be frank and honest in all of this, so just simple reassurance. Well, I think we have to realize that we have went through really unprecedented, we are going through unprecedented crisis. As a result of COVID, there has been a significant amount, let's say, of new funds, you know, released as part of, you know, new Next Generation Europe. And I think now what we have to make, so what I'm saying, I don't think we are talking about new money. What we need with this processes, such as this skills partnership, transition pathways, we need to properly align basically the funds that are already there within the, let's say, RRF, but also within the structural funds, so that they are properly addressed to the key needs identified jointly with the industry, with our social partners, where the investment is needed, where is it investment in skills, where is investment, you know, in critical digital infrastructure. You know, we have, again, the capacity to invest in digital field has immensely increased with the Digital Europe program, with also the target under RRF, you know, roughly 20%, which many member states have met. Now, the key challenge is indeed work together to make sure that the money will actually be spent as well as possible. And I think with the activities such as, you know, Partnership for Skills, with the transition pathways, this is for us, let's say, a tool to make sure that this alignment, you know, will happen. Okay, noted. And to wrap things up, Christel, what are the priority points that you want Jakub to take away from today's proceedings and from the retail and wholesale sector in general?
Well, I hear something, a very positive signal, and I'd like to thank you, Jakub, and I would like to thank also all the Commission representatives who have been with us on the panels, the various panels today. What I hear is reassuring. I hear a lot of understanding and a lot of support. What we hear from our members and what we heard this morning from the presentation is the need, and as you said, David, the need to accelerate. We need to accelerate. 2030 is tomorrow. The sector is under tremendous challenge, so we need to act quickly. And we need to act together. So if this transition could deliver that we work together, that would be an ideal way forward. Just a couple of things that would also need to be achieved, or we would like also to work on with the Commission, is this. I mean, on the one hand, there is this aspect of financial support to innovation and to new processes, but there is also the policy framework, so making sure that the policy helps change or supports change. That policy makes collaboration easier, for example, in the supply chain to achieve our targets for Scope 3 emissions, that we can agree on standards for circularity, but also that regulation is practicable and the least costly possible, because the more you add up the cost of regulation, the less resources you have to invest in your transformation. And the last point is in relation to the single market. Next year is the 30th anniversary of the single market. It's also the 30th anniversary of EuroCommerce, so we'll have plenty of opportunities, I hope, to celebrate together. But it is also a real opportunity to remind ourselves of the urgency to make this single market work. The single market has been there. The COVID crisis has highlighted how important it is when you have a pandemic and everybody's looking inwards, what disruption, what costs that creates to everybody. So we need this single market. We're moving from one crisis to another one. We need this single market to operate properly. And we will need a strong signal from the Commission, and we'll be happy to work together with you to make that single market work better.
Yeah, if I may, maybe
please do.
Very briefly on this, indeed, thanks a lot, Christel, for raising the issue of single market anniversary. I mean, for the Commission, indeed, it would be a chance to take stock of where we are. I mean, there would be basically a package presented by the Commission early next year, which would, again, take stock of where we are with the single market, but also will give some thoughts and ideas for the future. Definitely, you know, in the area of services, you know, retail is actually a critical sector. We'll be looking also, again, I think this is definitely merits a further engagement, you know, beyond just celebratory dimension, you know, throughout next year, so that we can actually also see where actually we could help, where certain actions is needed. So I think the single market could be indeed a sort of a unifying theme for us, and for this to happen, for the successful operation of the single market, indeed the twin transition is absolutely essential. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, Jakub. Could we give them a brief round of applause, ladies and gentlemen?